Hey crafty friends, first off, I apologize for my voice sounding a bit off. I'm fighting a bit of a head cold and just now starting to feel better, but I wanted to share this card with you because even though it's a Christmas sentiment and a Christmas card, it is still very cold in some parts of the country, and I wanted to share a great option for making your own cloud stencil. So this stamp set I'm using is from Stamp Pandas, and I guess it's designed by Fran Seiford. And I was really not impressed with the die set itself because even though each of the images come with a die set, even as hard as I tried to line up the die set, it just didn't match up to this stamp and didn't cut. And you'll see later on down in the video what I mean by that. So I know that it's a defect in the die, so going forward, if I choose to make this card again, I'll definitely be using my scan and cut machine to cut the truck out. The dies for the gifts and the tree were okay, but also not super clean. And the paper I chose to use is the Canson Recycled Bristol because it's heavyweight and it has a smooth and a textured side. And I wanted to use my Prismacolor pencils and some Gamsol to smooth out the pigment. So here's where I get crazy. I thought, oh, I'm just going to give black embossing powder a try. It's in my stash. It's old. I don't even remember the name of the brand. So I put it down and I'm like, yeah, this is why I cannot stand using black powder. And you'll see in a minute because I wanted to show you what happens with black embossing powder. I've just never found a black embossing powder that works really well that's not messy. So here's where I show you. It's messy. So you can see right there I tapped it off and look at my stamp positioner. Nice. Not. I cannot stand that. So I picked it up, tapped it off because it drives me nuts when my fingers touch that granular embossing powder and it's really hard to get off. Thankfully the stamp positioner lid comes off, so I was easily able to take a Swiffer cloth and then tap it into my trash can, and that worked fine. So I decided to just go through again and re-emboss the whole thing using some clear embossing powder, and that's where this comes in. So I pulled out my Gamsol and here are my Prismacolors that I plan on using. And I have to tell you, I bought a really cool case for my Prismacolored pencils because they don't rattle around in the tin can and the tin container, and I love this. So I'm not going to bore you with all of the coloring, and for those of you who want to continue watching the coloring, you can, but I do cut this short. But if you see and look down on my die, you can see parts of the black pieces that were cut off, and I just really was super disappointed. The window of the truck cut out beautifully, but that little small piece didn't, that I'm cutting down at the bottom, or that I'm coloring down at the bottom. But you can look at the wheel right there in front of you. It didn't cut out clean, so I wound up having to cut those portions off, even the back of the truck. And so that's what I'm going to have to make do with. Anyway, so here's my colored pencil, and you can see the wheel did not have a nice clean cut, and that's a defect in the die. And then I just used some darker colors to lay down on the truck because I plan on blending this out with my Gamsol, and that really made for a really nice in transition. So here I am using the Gamsol with one of those picks that you can buy separately, and just look at how beautiful that smooths out. It almost even makes it look like a Copic coloring. It's just a beautiful, beautiful result. And you can keep going back over the same piece like I'm doing here and adding more color and depth. But I loved it. I loved just how gorgeous the truck coloring looked, like you're an expert when you're really not. And I continued to add more color where I felt it was necessary to deepen parts of the images of the truck, and it turned out beautiful in my opinion. So when the Gamsol dries, you can still add more color, and I wound up doing that with the red, and I kept on working it through. And I did the same thing with the wheels. I just added shades of charcoal gray, and you can really see how the dye just really messed up on that back wheel. And then off camera, I colored the presents and I colored the tree. And I did leave the Christmas tree ornaments completely white because I plan on putting some Nouveau crystal drops on that. So here's where the fun starts. Do you see that stencil, the cloud stencil behind me? I use the Christmas tree on my glass mat there. I made that, and it was really, really simple. All I did was take a bunch of circles in a software program and made them a really light blue, and then I printed that on transparency, and then I took that to my laminator and laminated it. And then I just simply cut out over the image around, And it was pretty relatively simple, and I love the fact that I have all those different sides, super easy. Some of the circles are not perfectly round, but I think when you're going for a cloud image, it doesn't really matter because the color that you're going with is probably pretty subtle, and it turned out great. So here I am just doing a really, really light brush with the Broken China Distress ink, and I can turn it around any way I want it. I can see right through it, and it's very simple. Now, if you don't want to do circles and stuff like that, you could probably take small round dies and line them right next to each other and basically use a partial die cutting process and come up with something very similar, or probably even better. If any of you are interested in the image that I created using a software program, feel free to private message me or leave me a comment in the message below and let me know if you've made something similar or if you want my image, and you can certainly take that for free. I'll send it to you via email, or I'll figure out a way to upload it to my site. But you can see here it worked perfectly well and gave me the cloud-like effects that I was going for, and I was pretty pleased with it. So in the interim for right now, without purchasing that stencil, I am happy with this cloud die set. So I wound up putting the Christmas presents in the back of the truck and the tree in the front, or behind the truck as well too, to kind of see where I wanted to have my images laid out. Basically, I'm following the same pattern that's on the back of the card, on the stamp set, just pretty much doing the same thing, but I wanted to add a black road underneath, so I wind up using some black cardstock for that. So using the same design basically on the back of the stamp set, I went ahead and took a piece of black cardstock and used that to appear as the road that the truck is driving on. And I just took a piece of black cardstock, put a pencil line on the back so I could use that to mark as a point of trimming to make it fit on my card. So I didn't film the portion where I put the Nouveau crystal drops on the Christmas tree as the ornaments, but you get the general idea. There are tons of videos on how to use that product, and I allowed for a lot of drawing time. So I just positioned everything down where I wanted it, and then I put my sentiment on at the very, very last, right in the clouds, and that pretty much completed my card. What I did do also was put some glossy accents on the truck. I thought that really just kind of finished it off. And I put some Nouveau crystal drops in black on the wheels, and they look kind of murky, but I think the whole card turned out pretty cute. I hope everybody's having a fabulous start to the 2018 year, and I look forward to seeing you in many more crafting videos this year. Have a happy new year, and we'll chat with you soon. Ciao for now.